Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing? Welcome back for another episode of A Queen's Roundtable show and podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. So, this particular time, we are actually doing a panel, and it's best or leadership and management for small businesses. Leadership and management for small businesses. So, if you are a business owner, you're in the right place. So, make sure you grab your pens and your pad, and so that way you can write down these different tangible tips that our guests are going to give to you. So, again, the A Queens Roundtable show happens every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can tune in either on YouTube under the A Queens Roundtable channel or on the Realizing Your Potential television network, which is streaming currently on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku TV. We also, you can download the app as well from iOS, the iOS store, as well as Android. All right, so let me go ahead and bring my guest to the show. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the A Queens Roundtable show and podcast. And thank you all so much for joining for our topic tonight, our panel discussion, leadership and management for small businesses. So let's go ahead and start with Dr. Karen. If you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then once she finishes, Nancy, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. I am the founder and CEO of Pruden Global Business Solutions Consulting. Sometimes we do business as the Sister Leaders community. And Pruden Global Business Solutions is a professional leadership and development company. We pretty much work with individuals who want to excel at leadership, whether it is through entrepreneurship or whether it's in corporate America. And we work with these individuals using various customized frameworks. I have going on a 30-year, 3-decade career in business. I am still an entrepreneur as well as an entrepreneur. So I have those two lanes going on. And so because I work with individuals in both spheres, it allowed me to give real-time, up-to-date information for those people when I am consulting with them.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you again. Welcome to the show. Nancy?
Okay. I have been self-employed for 40 years myself. I'm in a I'm in a second career now. My original career, I started in asset management and financial planning practice as a single parent with no alimony, no child support, no other source of income, and $2,000 to my name. I was able to build it to 200 million before I sold it. So now I've coached businesses all over the country on how to be very successful entrepreneurs, but also a real strong commitment to ethics, how you treat employees, how you treat customers, what is the right way to get customers, how to increase your bottom line by doing good and by helping everyone. I'm an international speaker now. I am also a delegate to the United Nations for the Commission on the Status of Women, and I'm an author of 3 award-winning books. So I'm busy.
Yes, you are. And you left off, you didn't tell us anything about the work that you do with the women in the Ukraine, as well as I believe it's Ghana.
Yeah, so I work every week with a group of women in Ukraine, helping with the mental health there. So we're connected with a psychologist, and we have so far put on 70 sessions for women to help them with their mental health because of what's going on there. A lot of the kids are dropping out of school thinking they have no future. And we feel that if we can get at the mothers and get their heads on straight, then they'll be able to better help their children get their heads on straight. For the last 2 years, I've also been mentoring a group of former sex trafficked young women in Ghana. I'm helping them build their own online business to bring money to support small business in the US, bring money into their country. These are all single mothers, so that they won't need to be doing sex work anymore. And it's been going well. They're amazing young ladies doing a great job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So much purpose, right?
Yeah, feels good. Feels good. I'm also a guardian ad litem for the state of Connecticut. So I appear in court for children that are either in abusive homes or foster care.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I do remember you mentioning that as well. There's so much to keep up with you, Nancy. Got so much going on.
There's always something going on. Yeah.
So, okay. So before we kind of dive into the meat of it, I'll go back up with you, Dr. Karen. So why are we here? How did all of this, come about? Why is this important to you, talking about this particular topic, leadership and management for small businesses?
Well, for me, because for small businesses, usually the founder, owner, CEO is holding multiple hats. And so it's not a specialist type business, not in the beginning. Usually they are doing a little bit of everything just to get started. And so if you don't know how to, what competencies are competencies that you should really focus on and follow up on, what things that you should put in place, it's three main things that every business, whether you're small or large, consists of, and that is your talent, your systems, and your processes. And so those are the three main areas of every business. When you are a small business, you are the overseer of all of that. And so in terms of talent, if you don't have the talent to get started, to operate your business, then you have to decide how you're going to bring that talent in. And that's not always as hiring someone. There are different ways to bring. You can contract people, you can volunteer people, you can hire your kids in your business, all different ways of doing that. But you also need to know what your area, what your gap is in terms of what you know and what you don't know, to get started, depending on your industry. And so being able to manage whatever it is that your business have, whether it's products or services, is critical, because that is either your time value or your monetary value associated with your products that are coming in. Your time value, because small businesses usually have less than 20 individuals, a lot of times just starting out as one, two. So time is of a value for those individuals. And so if you don't know how to properly manage your time, manage your processes, determine what skills that are needed and aren't needed to do certain tasks, then you can't get the job done. And generally, you don't have a whole lot of other people to rely on because you have a small workforce.
Ooh, that was a lot. What are the three again? You said
your talent. The three areas every business has: your talent, your processes, and your systems.
Okay.
Every business, no matter what the size, those are the three main areas. However, when you're a small business, sometimes one person can oversee those three areas.
Okay. So you know what? Just in I don't like to leave any stone underturned or overturned or whatever the saying is. Unturned. There you go. So what's the difference between the processes and the systems?
Okay, so your systems could be your software or your hardware. Okay. Your processes is how you do things. The order you do things, your standard operating procedures. You do A before B. And if you don't have that written down somewhere, then you may have 2 or 3 different people doing the same thing in 3 or 4 different ways. And you may be losing time as well as you may be losing money based on that lack of standardization. And so, so your systems is your software and your hardware, and your processes is how you do what it is that you do.
Okay. So you know what, Dr. Nancy, we're going to get you in just a second. So Dr. Karen, with that being said, I know myself, I've talked to other people that have thought the same thing. when you are just starting, you're just starting your business, let's say, I don't know, maybe 2 years or under, do you think it is still important to have a specific way, like written down, kind of etched in stone?
I think it is more important to have it. It's always important for consistency. If you want to replicate anything that you do, for instance, if you create a product a certain way, then if you do not create it the same way each time, then you may be jeopardizing the quality of the product. You may be jeopardizing the time it took to create the product. So standardization is always good when you need to repeat something. You can always do the one-off if you're not going to repeat it. But if your business model is dependent upon you consistently doing something over and over and over again, particularly when you are small, you need that standardization so that you can repeat and have the same quality that you generated in the past.
Okay, and I guess that's even stands true for even like coaches, like even onboarding. I don't know, like their coaching clients, let's just say.
Well, if you are an entrepreneur, you have a coaching client and you don't have any type of standardization on how you onboard, then the testimony of your clients may be different based on how you deviated from that onboarding process. One process may have lacked something that maybe you use something. Again, standardization is always good when you want to repeat your success. It also helps you identify where there are opportunities for improvement, because you're doing it the same way each time, and you can kind of earmark where something needs to be looked at a little closer.
Okay, I like that. Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Karen. Nancy, go ahead and I guess first start off by telling us why you actually even agreed to be a part of this leadership and management for small businesses panel. I guess let's start there.
I've learned a lot over the 40 years of being self-employed, and I just really enjoy giving back. I've done many of these types of programs, and I speak as an international speaker. I speak on stages to a lot of businesses, small and large, just about everywhere. And I would say one of the most, and every single thing Dr. Karen just said, I completely agree with. I mean, you've got to have systems, you've got to be organized. And here's a couple of tips or a couple of things I would also say are really important that go along with all of that. My first thought always was many small business owners go into a business because of a passion they have. So let's say they love to cook, so they open a restaurant. They did not go into business to hire, train, stock, make up all the menus, figure out, hire, evaluate employees ongoing, learn how to pay them properly, benefits. They didn't go into business for all that, and they don't even like it or want to do it, and they're often not even good at it. So the first thing you need to do, and I actually did this after I was in business about 15 years, I believe, I actually sat down and figured out what are all the things I do on a regular basis in my business that I'm really good at. I love doing them. And if I did them all day, at the end of the day, I would leave energized, excited, and love my work. The second question is, what are the things you do all day because you're good at it, but you hate it? And if you had to do it all day, you'd probably want to shoot yourself by the end of the day. And then third, what do you do because you don't have somebody else to do it, but you're not very good at it? You probably shouldn't be doing it. There's other people out there that not only could do it better than you, they'll do it at a lower cost than you. So once I figured that out, I actually evaluated all of the employees that I had and realized they were all the wrong people. Because often I find small business owners hire clones of themselves, and that's not what you want. You want the opposite of you. I wanted an office where when everyone came to work, they were doing the things they loved, that they were really good at. They could do it all day and go home feeling energized and excited, just like I wanted to feel. So I actually let every single person in my office go all at the same time. I knew I was going to take a 6-figure pay cut that year, and I did. But within a year and a half, I had the right people. I had made back the 6-figure that I lost, plus the business was growing even further because now we had the right people doing the right jobs. They were great at it. They loved it. They wanted to be there, and they wanted the business to grow, and they wanted to do better. So I've always said, people have always asked too, what's the one thing you wish you did differently? Hire someone sooner. Because too many small business owners think they have to make a bunch of money before they can afford to hire someone. And I've always said, if you hire the right person, they more than pay for themselves. The only time it's a problem is when you hire the wrong person. Then it costs you money. You as the owner should be doing the $300 an hour jobs, $400 an hour, $500 an hour. You shouldn't be doing the $20 an hour, $30 an hour, $40 an hour jobs. Those are the jobs you hire other people to come in. And like Dr. Karen was saying, it doesn't mean you have to have a full-time employee. You might go out and get somebody part-time, or you might get a self-employed person who's just going to come to work for you as a 1099, as an independent contractor. So, I mean, there's all different ways to do it, and don't be cheap. The first person I hired, I was like everybody else, and I wanted to hire somebody cheap. The first time I sat down with a very big client, had multi-million dollars with me, and I couldn't find what I needed to do my work with that client, I realized I had the wrong person because they had filed everything wrong and I couldn't find anything. And I had like 1,000 clients. So if it's filed wrong, where do you find it? That's when I said, no more. Let's pay them proper pay, get the right person in here doing the right job, and this business will take off. And that's what happened.
You know, I just kind of want to say something there. When you say hiring the right people, I know that that is so important, because if you think about it, if they're happy and enjoy what they're doing, they're gonna come in with a totally different attitude.
Exactly.
You know, because I'm thinking about when
and the quality of work and just the ambiance and people getting along in the office because they're happy. And there is one thing I have to say that goes along with that. There was never any such thing as that's not my job. So just because you were hired to do this doesn't mean you're not going to do other things, but that was your main task. And everyone's job is whatever needs to get done to make that business run. But each person had their own main function. And then when someone was out sick or somebody was overloaded and needed help, it was also their job to do other things that's not normally their job, because their real job is to keep this business running and growing and working together as a team. I sold the practice 17 years ago. I ran into my staff a week or two ago. They're all still there. So that's 27 years now. They've all still there. You get the right people, it works well.
Okay. So, Dr. Karen, I know you, let me just ask one more question, then I'm going to let you chime in. But Nancy, what about, you said don't hire the cheapest person. Because I know a lot of people, including myself, are dealing with companies that are like across the seas, that may not, be an expert. But we do it because it's cheaper. So what do you say to...
What is your time worth? You just had a mistake tonight. What is your time worth? What is the quality of your work worth? Okay. If I would be willing to take a little less income myself to get the right person in there, because if that helps the business grow, then I'm going to be making even more. And I can't worry about the dollars and cents or pennies or whatever now. It's getting the right people doing the right job. Not only that, if you think about it, it takes a long time to train someone and get them up and running. Why do you want to spend the time training the wrong person only to have it not work out When if you just paid them a little more and got the right person, you might have them there for many years.
Makes complete sense.
I think about them like family. I mean, most people are in their jobs or doing something with their jobs more of their waking hours than anything else in their life, more than with their family, friends, or anything else. And I've even said to my own children, I'd rather see you go to work and make less money and be happy than to make $1 million and be miserable. So if we can help these employees have a great life and be happy and support them and pay them appropriately, we'll have a great office, we'll have a great business, and we'll all survive and we'll all do really well. We'll all thrive.
Okay, I like that. Dr. Karen, any piggybacks or anything you want to, talk about based on what we've just shared?
Oh, well, Nancy is speaking my language, 28 years in senior leadership in HR. I'm all about having the right person in the right job at the right time with the right skills. And what she says is definitely true. I mean, if you pay people properly, people are extremely loyal. I mean, they are extremely loyal. A lot of times people think that money is high on the list of why people are being able to retain people. It's not number one. A lot of times it's culture, atmosphere. It's like Nancy said, that feels like family. We bond with people. We spend a lot of time at work. And so if you pay people properly so that they can pay their bills and maybe have a little life outside of paying their bills, they are extremely loyal, and you will get 200% without them even thinking about it. It's just, they're just happy, and so I totally agree with everything that she is saying in terms of the culture of having the people in the right place, because there is an adverse effect when you have the wrong people in a particular job, because that means others have to take up the slack, or you lose time, or you lose money. In any case, it makes for a problematic workplace situation when you have someone with the wrong skills employed. And so you have to find out fairly early when you've made that boo-boo and correct it. Because there is a snowball effect on others. And your reputation. I talk a lot about my clients with reputational value. It takes years to build your reputation. It can only take 1 or 2 high visibility mistakes with the wrong client to just kill your business, kill a good contract, kill your reputation. And so your reputation is worth you having the right people with the right skill set, so that they're doing the right things for your organization as well. And so I totally agree with everything that Nancy is saying, because again, in my 28 years in HR, I've seen it all, heard it all. You can either spend the time on the front end and get the right person, or you're going to spend the time once they're employed trying to exit them from the organization outside of a lawsuit.
Right.
And so It's better to spend the time on the front end and screen them and make sure they have the skill sets that you think that they have, and do some checking on that. And there are ways to check. I know a lot of people think that you can't get information through references nowadays, because everybody is so scared of liability, where it's nothing stopping us from doing skill tests prior to employment, and you can pay them. So it's worth paying someone $22 for a 1-hour skill test to have them show you that they have the skill set, so you'll know ahead of time, as opposed to you bringing them in and they're disrupting your workforce and finding out that they don't have the skill set. They just got a good resume writer.
Could I say something about that also? I look at that a little bit different. Everything you've said, I completely agree with as well. I think we're both on the same page, but I look at hiring a little differently, maybe. I always say hire for personality, train for skill, because I can't change who they are. But if they're the right person with the right attitude and the right drive and interest and all of that, I often would rather hire someone that knows nothing about the job, train them from the start the way I want it done, instead of untraining them from the way they did it somewhere else to now retrain them in my way. And if they don't have the right makeup or attitude, none of it's going to matter anyway. So to me, you hire for attitude and you train for skill, and then they can really stick. So that's just one way I look at it. Something else you said about processes and systems. One other thing I would add for that, I completely agree with everything you said. We always had an office manual, and each person had it's an online manual that all the computers were networked so they could see it, everybody could see it. And each person, it was their job at all times to keep their portion of the manual up to date with contacts and pricing and processes and all of that, because I wanted, if any of those people walked out tomorrow or got sick or hit by a bus and I had to put somebody new in there, I don't want to start from scratch. I can give them this manual and here's every single thing and how we do it for this job and the way to do it. Sit down, read that first, and then we'll start with the training. So, and it was the staff's job to bring that up to speed. And I had a office manager, and I managed the office manager who managed them. And I made sure that that was always kept up to date. The first time you have a problem, you learn not to have that problem anymore. And that's one way to solve a problem with somebody walking out the door and now you've got no one to do the job and nobody knows how.
So I have a question for each of you. Let me see. I'm going to start with Dr. Karen first. So when you mentioned about, making sure that they have the appropriate skill level. So let's say, you're an entrepreneur and you're hiring for, I don't know, your first virtual assistant, let's just say. Like, what type of a screening process would you recommend? Would you recommend maybe that entrepreneur writing out maybe specific questions, or is there maybe tools online, or, you know what I mean? Like a website, like be a little bit more specific with that. So if there was someone that was interested in doing that and just kind of said, okay, I understand I need to kind of screen people to, to see what their area of expertise is, but I really don't know how to go about doing that. So that's my question for you, Dr. Karen. And then my question for you, Nancy, is, okay, you say hire, look at the type of an individual that you have. Let's just say, for example, hiring someone that has a good sense of integrity. I know that's very important to me. If you made a mistake, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. How can I make this better or not do this again? Because that's a huge thing with me. Because if you don't accept responsibility, you don't have a sense of integrity, I don't want to deal with you. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. But what about if you get an individual that is top tier in that respect, but then you find out they don't really they're not as sharp in the skill set that you need them to be. You know what I mean? Maybe they you train them up, but they just don't take to it. Okay. So that's my question for Nancy. Okay. So whoever wants to go first, I'm going to go on mute.
I'll go first. So you were talking about tasks and responsibilities. And so tasks and responsibilities, you use the VA as a virtual assistant as an example. Well, first of all, before you even hire a virtual assistant, you need to write down what are the tasks and responsibilities that you're going to have that individual responsible for. Before you can even hire them, because you need to know what you're looking for in terms of hiring. So you write down the tasks and responsibilities, and using the example that you provided. So virtual assistant, if you're going to have the virtual assistant responding to your email, some people have the virtual assistant responding to emails. Well, it's a couple of things. You need to make sure that they have a command of the English language. because most of it is going to be written in English. You're going to need to know that they can write a certain way. It's a certain tone of your organization. Every organization, every CEO, everybody has a tone, certain keywords that they use that are relevant to that particular business. And so you would have them do an example of an email. If you're going to have them do any type of writing, you would do a writing sample, you would have it. And I would do these things where they would do it online, where you can see them, not where they can have someone do it on their behalf, because that has happened. In my almost 28 years of HR, I've seen all kinds of stuff. They've hired people who turned in a writing sample and come to find out they couldn't write because they paid somebody to turn in the write-up sample for them. So I would have them do the writing sample, the email, or any documentation if they're going to be responsible for doing it. You can still also, you want to check references, and just you would ask specific questions. And like VA, I believe that you can get good references on a VA though. That's one of the jobs that I think someone will probably report on. People are hesitant about some other higher positions from a liability standpoint. But yeah, you have to document what the tasks and responsibilities are. And I always, in my years in HR, I am not concerned about years of experience as I am concerned about proficiency. I removed years of experience from job descriptions from organizations I worked for the last 15 years, because depending on where you worked and who you work for, the tasks and responsibilities are different. You may work from a mom and pop, and you may be doing 6 different roles, and you may be highly proficient because of the multiple roles that you have. You may be working for a Fortune 500 company where you are more specialized, and so your skill set is more segmented, and so you don't have the all around that one would have if they worked for a smaller organization. So really what you're asking for when you hire people is a certain level of proficiency, and you need to be able to test for that. You can test for that through systems. And when I say test, I agree with Nancy. Certain people you can hire for attitude, but there are certain positions that you hire. You need people to be able to hit the ground running from day one. And so you have to have a good mixture. Everybody can't come in and just be happy-go-lucky and don't have the skill set you need, because there will be a gap in operations if that happens. And so you want to make sure that at least you have a good mixture of those who are seasoned individuals, while you are training up those who have a good disposition, and you're going to train them up to their potential. Because if you don't do that, if you don't have a good mixture, then you're going to adversely impact the morale of your organization while you're trying to train up that person for potential. But yeah, written documentation of what the tasks and responsibilities are and the proficiency level that is needed for that job is one way that you can kind of calibrate when you're talking to someone and bringing someone on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Karen. Very, very helpful.
Okay. And then you wanted to know if we were interviewing someone, or if any business was interviewing someone, and I had said that the goal was hire for personality, train for skill. How would you know if they're able to do the job? I think is kind of what you were getting at. So all of that to me is in how you interview them and the questions that you ask. So for example, I might say something like, tell me a time when you needed to do a new task on a brand new computer system that you had never used before, never saw before, and how did you handle that? Now, I really don't care so much what the system was or what the job was. I want to know how they handled that. So did they go to a manual and read up on it and learn it themselves? Were they all flustered and went to their boss? How did they handle it? And we had a whole set of questions similar to that kind of thing in a lot of different areas, so that we could more learn how they act, how they react, and how they handle things when there's challenges, as well as when things are going well. I mean, we've even said to them, so let's say they're going to be a receptionist at the front window. Tell me a time when you've had a very difficult person come in and give you a hard time. How did you handle it? What did you do? And tell me what the end result was. And then if I didn't really like what I heard about that, or I wasn't getting the right answer or enough of an answer, then I'd say, okay, tell me about someone else then. Give me a different story. Give me somebody else that you've worked with, maybe even in a different job, not the one you're leaving now or the one that you just left. But I think it's all in the way that you interview them. It's, I'm sure you probably all heard it related this way before, but it's almost like dating. When you date for the first time, everybody's on their best behavior. The guy opens the door, pulls out the chair. Everybody's absolutely wonderful. But then once you've been in it for 5 years, it's like a whole totally different person. So, and it's like that when you're interviewing people. They're on their best behavior. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. But can you really get underneath all of that and learn who they really are? Because they're only hurting themselves. You want to match them with a job that's going to be good for them and good for you, and not just stick them in something because they want the job. So I think it's trying to get underneath all of that and learning who these people really are and making sure you have a good match.
Okay. All right. Very helpful. Thank you. Thank you. So anything else you guys want to share that I don't know we haven't talked about, or anything else that came up as one another was talking? I'll give you an opportunity.
I guess I'll share. So for entrepreneurs, they need to be able to identify gaps in their processes, any gaps in their talent for what their business plans say that they're going to do 2 years down the road. Who on deck? Can I build on their skill set, or do I need to bring someone in? Do I need to hire someone just for the project? And so what I've done is a lot of times it is difficult for entrepreneurs to figure out what questions need to be asked as I am considering doing this business thing. And so what I've, as part of my business plan, what I've done is I've created a comprehensive business audit checklist. That's 100 different questions that one would ask. And it's in the form of I have a copy of it here. It's in the form of a book. It says, it's part of my Amplify Your Value series. It says Comprehensive Business Audit Checklist. It is in 3 categories that I mentioned: talent, processes, and systems. And it helps the small entrepreneur to think about in question form, because it's only questions, and it tells you why you need to ask this question as part of your business. For instance, I'll flip open just one. And so one question is under let's see here, work environment. So physical workspace evaluation. How well does the current physical workspace support employee well-being and productivity, taking into consideration factors such as lighting, ergonomics, and overall comfort? And then it'll tell you why are you even concerned about this? Why would you as an entrepreneur be concerned about this? Well, this question assesses the impact of the physical workspace on employees' well-being and productivity. It prompts an evaluation of factors such as lighting, ergonomics, and overall comfort to ensure that the workspace is conducive to optimal performance. And so it is 100 questions that an entrepreneur, based in those 3 categories, can ask themselves to kind of audit their business to figure out where there's a gap at, so that they can address it. Maybe they can't address it now financially, but at least they can put it on deck to address in the future whatever that gap is, because you don't know what you don't know. And for my almost 30 years of experience, and 15 of it being in senior leadership, and auditing being part of, my role for entrepreneurs, it is good to be proactive and find out where your gap is, so that you can go ahead and compensate or plan for how you're going to address that deficiency in your business. And so part of entrepreneurs' business plan, one, have a business plan. Two, so you know where it is that you plan to go. And then three, be able to audit with resources such like this or any other book that's similar to mine's, so that you'll know what to look for to gauge whether or not your organization is ready. There's a term called organizational readiness. Is ready to move to whatever the next product or service that you plan to do for an entrepreneur.
Let me sidestep with that. That is absolutely 100% right on. With that, thinking about it this way, which we haven't mentioned yet, is too many small businesses are so darn busy doing everything that they don't take the time to step away and work on the business instead of just in the business. I recommend with every business that I have ever coached, I require them to take out their schedule and we put in exact dates and times for an entire next year of when they are not seeing clients, they are not working with staff on work stuff. They're not doing anything but working on the business. They're looking at the books there, and it's all prepped ahead of time so that when they walk in that day for that day of working on the business, it's already lined out. They already know what they're going to do. So it's not hours of figuring out, oh, what do I got to look at? You already know, because we have a document stored on your desktop that every time something comes up that you know you need to address, it goes in this document, and then you pull it out for your day of working on the business. These are all the things that we've had issues with. We had staff. I also recommend depending on the kind of business you're in, a lot of them, I know my office always had a staff meeting once a month. All the staff were required to come. We bought lunch, so it made them want to come. And at first, it wasn't going well because they felt like it was a gripe session of this isn't working, and that's not working, that's not working. So we switched it. And we started off with one person got to sit in my chair, the owner's chair, and be the one taking notes. And then we swapped at each meeting. A different person did. It was their responsibility. And everyone had to come with one positive thing that had happened at work since the last meeting. And that's how we started the meeting off. So tell me something great, either that happened to you or that you heard about somebody else that in the office, what they did, that was great. And that's how the meetings started. And that's how the meetings ended. And in the middle of it all was the meat of exactly what we were going to cover. Staff were required at least 2 days before the meeting to fill out a form that we provided for anything they wanted brought up at the meeting, any questions, any issues, any problems they saw, anything that happened since the last meeting. And if they had nothing to bring up, they had to sign off and date it saying, I have nothing, everything is fine. And it went in their file. That way, if they ever came back and sued later and you didn't fix this and you never helped me with that, we have documentation that they signed every single month of exactly what their concerns were and what they weren't. So, and all the meetings went really well. And staff felt like what they had to say mattered because we had them write it down ahead of time. We brought it up and we talked about it. So that helps.
Love it.
Got to work on the business, not just in it. I actually flew myself away somewhere 4 times a year to spend 2 full days with about 30 other self-employed business people, swapping ideas and learning how to grow the business. And everybody can't do that, but you can take a day away from the office and make sure you're working on your business. That's how you get to the next level. Otherwise, stuff gets in the way. And it's not going to happen.
I agree. You got to be strategic and intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff, ladies.
And the better you get at that, the more personal time you have. Because you'll be getting all your stuff done at work and you won't feel guilty when you're home that you should be doing this, that, and the other thing because you've addressed them all.
Mhm. So, with our remaining time, leave the audience with a takeaway, maybe one or two takeaways, however, one, two, or three, and then let the audience know where they can follow you and how they can reach out to you if they want to collaborate and connect with you. We'll start with Dr. Karen first.
Okay, so I'll close out. As a small business owner, I want you to protect your professional equity. It's a term that I speak about all the time globally. And your professional equity is just like the equity in a house. You tap into it when needed. It's three prongs. It is your reputation, which I mentioned a little bit previously. Your reputation, what do people say about you when you walk in the room? And more importantly, what do they say about you when you're not in the room? And then there's also your relationships, and that's your relationships with not only your employees, your customers, your vendors, anybody who interacts with you. And your relationship is not always with people who interact with you personally. Your relationship can come into play with people who are watching you from afar. So be mindful of that. It's not always just the people who interact with you. And then it's your area expertise. Generalists are good because they understand how things work, but every entrepreneur should have an area expertise, just an area, because generally that is tied into your reputation, whatever your area of whatever your area of expertise is. And so guard your professional equity. Equity can grow and it can decrease, just like if you're someone who owns a product or anything out here that grows in equity. So other than that, what else? How to reach me? drkarenhillspruden.com is a springboard to all of my other things. And I'm excited to be here. This has been a great discussion.
I think we've both given a lot of great tips already. So, but with that, I would say, love what you do. Take the time to make it the best it can be. Think about others around you. And the sky's the limit. You can really do just about anything you want in this life if you're willing to do what it takes to get you there. So think about the changes you need to make. And here's one real great tip. I always tell businesses, not only do you have to be okay with change, you have to seek it out and make it happen. If you keep doing everything the way you've always done it, world is going to go past you. Your competition is going to learn bigger and better software, bigger and better products, other ways to give staff benefits, all different kinds of things. So don't just go with the flow, but actually seek out changes you can make that are going to put you in the forefront, even if the people behind you aren't as comfortable with it, because you're the owner and you need to make it happen. And that's how you grow the business. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. If you look at your business today, odds are, if you looked at it again from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you were in business that long, it's totally different now than it was 10 years ago. So with that in mind, think about what it might be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. There's going to be technology we've never even heard of yet. There's going to be all different kinds of things. And if you don't seek it out and embrace it, you're going to get left behind and your competition will surpass you.
And it's like the minute you mentioned that, the first thing that came to my mind was AI.
Exactly. I've been taking classes on that lately, and I use it almost every day now.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you know how to use it right.
Economy. And so the wisdom economy is the knowledge that we obtain through working in the workplace. And so AI can't do that. It can generate stuff, but it can't tell you what if and all of that stuff, which is that wisdom that we've gained over the years. And so if people stay up to date and keep growing professionally, then you don't have to be afraid of AI.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies. This has been awesome.
Mhm.
And you guys have given so many tips and tools. Nancy, did you mention where they can
No, I
find you?
didn't. So the name of my business is Above All Else, Success in Life and Business. So it's aboveallelse.org is the website. And if you go there, everything's there. The book's there. There's actually articles that I've been printed in USA Today, US News and World Report. I've been printed all over in multiple publications. A lot of articles about running businesses are actually on the website. So aboveallelse.org.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, both of you. It's been a pleasure with having you. Just so honored to have you here on the A Queens Roundtable show and podcast. This evening was the leadership and management for small businesses topic. So if you definitely want to, contact or be connected with these ladies, they've told you how to do so. And ladies, just again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.